Why, Craig? What's going on, buddy?
Hey. How we doing? Happy Monday.
Doing well. Decent ball game here.
Yeah, if you're a Reds fan. If you're a Cardinals fan, maybe you're not feeling so good, but as a Reds fan,
really you're a little bit heavy. Wait till you see this swing from Jordan Walker. It's gonna make your heart just so happy.
We've been over this. I'm way behind. Streaming is unreal in terms of the delay, but let's see. Here comes the 1-2. Oh, ugly.
That's not great. That guy was a higher prospect than Ellie De La Cruz.
To be fair, that looked a little bit like a Noelvi Marte swing from his first 15 games after suspension. So I don't want to talk too much, but hey, Lars Newpar, appreciate you coming.
There we go.
Let's do a show.
There we go, Craig.
We love it.
Hey, Reds win. That was easy.
Efficient. Let's get after it. Let's do a show. Let's talk about it.
Johnny Bench has tied it up. The Cincinnati Reds win the World Series in 4 straight. It was a sweep.
In the dirt, it's a wild pitch. Here comes Walker. The Reds win the pennant.
Larkins won the game.
That ball is fair. Cincinnati's ahead. 2 games to none.
Welcome Joe Randa to Cincinnati. Adam Dunn has done it again. Benzinger backing and calling. And the 1990 World Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds.
Marty, yes. This is Adam from Milwaukee. Hey, Adam, how you doing? I'm good. How are you? Good. Do you think Scott Chatterbox is a good player?
Dunn up there with the bases loaded, the outfield deep and around toward right, and the 1-0 on the way to the plate. Swung on, long drive, right field, and this one belongs to the Reds.
And a high drive. Hit back into deep right field. Junior has just knocked the door down to the 500 club.
Benson's first home run is a walk-off winner. That ball had a family.
And De La Cruz is, oh my goodness, look at this kid run. My, oh my. That is a triple.
Matt McClain's first big league bomb.
Spencer Steer's first big league hit is a home run to straightaway center field. Joey Votto's done it again.
The pitch. Votto swings high in the air. Right field. Yes! He pointed to the dugout to say, I told you. That is Joey Votto's 315th career go-ahead ribby. Only Johnny Bench had more as a Red.
And I can't tell you how much it means to play in front of everyone here in Cincinnati as a Red. What a gift. What a tremendous gift. So thank you. Thank you.
I think I can speak for all of Reds country. Joey Votto, thank you.
High drive. Left center field. Racing back to the line. Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? He did. He did. Reds win. Win. Line to right field. Genius, the first Red Throw to first and Homer Bailey for the second time in his major league career has tossed a no-hitter. Oh, are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win. What a dream beginning to the career of Jay Bruce.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Chatterbox Reds. Nick Kirby, Craig Sandlin. Happy to be here with you as the Cincinnati Reds whip up on the St. Louis Cardinals 6-1. Craig, how are we
Say
feeling,
it
my
isn't
friend?
so. Say it isn't so. Are the Reds back? I don't know. Talk
Some
to
are
me in
saying-
a couple more games. Some are saying they're back.
Some are saying.
That's
some
the
are
word on
saying.
the street. I don't know, Nick.
Yeah, fun game. I got to be honest, you get into the top of the third, Andrew Abbott kind of runs into trouble. Felt like Sonny Gray was absolutely cruising. Did not think I was going to be doing a 6-1 Reds win post-game show, but here we are. Baseball's a funny game sometimes, and I don't know. Do you kind of feel the same way? It's just like it flipped, and it flipped quickly, and then old Jacob Junis just absolutely slammed the door shut.
Exactly what everybody expected, right? I mean, what more would you expect out of Jacob Junis than 7 straight retired? Pretty standard work for him, right?
Yeah, pretty good stuff. All right. Well, as always, like the stream. We appreciate that. Appreciate you watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, appreciate you watching us on Instagram tonight or on Twitter. Trace Fowler at the game, living the sweet life tonight, while us peasants try to cover the Cincinnati Reds in our basements.
Shout out to
Craig.
1410 Wing AM for the hookup for the suite for the guys. Pretty fun experience, I'm sure, for them. Saw some videos on social media. If you haven't already, be sure to check out Chatterbox Sports on x.com at CBOX Sports.
All right, Craig, do you have a box score recap? Because I didn't do one.
Of course I do. Come on, Nick. Whether it's from Nick or not, the box score recap, as always, presented by Nick Kirby. The Cincinnati Reds returned to Great American Ballpark on Monday night for the first of a pivotal 3-game series with division foe St. Louis Cardinals. Familiar face Sonny Gray was on the mound for the Cardinals, squaring off with Andrew Abbott. Abbott in search of his elusive 10th victory on the season. He picked up his 9th victory back on July 8th, and in the 5 starts since, he was 0-3 with a 6.56 ERA over 23 and a third inning pitch. Opponents were slashing 340, 405, 640 in that span. We pick it up in the second. In the top of the second, Abbott would allow a double by Paul Goldschmidt to dead center. He would then hit Brendan Donovan, and after getting ahead of newly called up Jordan Walker 0-2, Abbott walks Walker to load the bases with 1 out. A weak ground ball to Spencer Steer, making only his second career start at second base by Pedro Pages, resulted in a 4-6-3 double play to escape without any damage. And then after retiring the first 2 batteries of the third inning, Abbott allowed a single to Wilson Contreras, then walked Tommy Pham on 4 pitches. Nolan Arenado singled through the left side of the infield, scoring Contreras. Abbott would strike out Brendan Donovan to escape a second straight bases loaded threat and keep the score 1-0 Cardinals. Reds coming into today were 14-44, with opponents scoring first. After walking Jake Fraley to lead off the bottom of the third, Sonny Gray struck out Noelvi Marte and Will Benson. In total, the first time through the lineup, Sonny Gray compiled 7 strikeouts. Things turned quickly, though. Spencer Steer hit a 2-run home run to left and was immediately followed by Elly De La Cruz, adding a solo home run of his own to deep right field. And just like that, the Reds took a 3-1 lead. In the bottom of the 5th, the Reds played add-on with Fraley and Benson on base with a single and walk respectively. Spencer Steer adds his second home run of the day to left field. This time a 3-run bomb, Steer's 18th of the season, extended the Reds' lead to 6-1. Andrew Abbott returned to the mound in the top of the 7th, having retired 10 straight Cardinals. He'd get Jordan Walker to fly out before surrendering his first base runner in over 3 innings, a single by Pedro Pages up the middle. Abbott would strike out Victor Scott, then get Mason Wynn to hit a ground ball to short, but Ellie couldn't handle it, and all runners were safe after review. As soon as the review was announced, David Bell ascended the dugout steps and called on Jacob Junis with 2 outs in the inning. Junis would get Contreras swinging to end the inning. Final stat line on the day for Andrew Abbott: 6 2/3, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks, 1 hit by a pitch, all on just 93 pitches. And the Reds led 6-1 through 6.5. Jacob Junis would work a perfect 8th, a perfect 9th to close out the 6-1 victory for the Reds. Andrew Abbott improves to 10-9 with his stellar outing, and the Reds pick up their 2nd straight win to improve to 58-61. Ellie De La Cruz 2 for 4 on the day. Jake Fraley 1 for 2 with a walk and 2 runs scored. The Cardinals drop their 2nd straight and fall to 60-59. Game 2 of the series is Tuesday night at 6:40 p.m. Eastern and will feature Hunter Green against Eric Fetty. More details on that game, as always, coming up later on Chatterbox Reds.
Well, beautiful as always, Craig. And of course, we had a deep drive of the day today. Feels kind of dirty not giving it to Spencer Steer, but you got to have your principles. Ellie's went further. It was the deepest drive of the game. Ellie's home run in the bottom of the 3rd. 102.2 off the bat, 399 feet off of Sonny Gray. And our deep drive of the day, sponsored as always by Deep South Commodities. DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks, as always, to our friends at DSC.
I got to say, Nick, real quick before we jump into it, real bold of you, the day after going with Austin Hendrick being our deep drive of the game, for you to talk about morals and having to go with the deepest home run of the day. Real bold, Nick. Real bold.
Well, for our podcast listeners, it actually was still Tyler Stevenson. So there was half morals.
Right.
There was half morals. We only slightly compromised. But let's start off with Spencer Steer. Obviously, a great day for him. I was surprised everyone to see him batting leadoff, playing second base. Still don't know if I necessarily agree with that decision to play him at second base. I don't really care about him batting leadoff. I think that was perfectly fine. Lineups don't matter, blah, blah, blah. But nonetheless, 2 home runs. That's great to see. Also, more important, in my opinion, that's 3 home runs in the last 4 games for him. Prior to that, he had gone 19 games without a homer. So it feels like Steer's a guy that gets kind of streaky at times, especially power-wise. So, look, I mean, you don't have a lot of games left, 43 games left. Could Spencer Steer be getting on a hot stretch here? I don't know. We'll have to kind of see on that, but that to me is really encouraging, you know, this time of the year that maybe Spencer Steer is going to get really hot here.
Yeah, I mean, that would certainly be good for this ball club for sure. Spencer Steer's last day off came in before August 7th, came in mid-May. He had played 65 straight games before that day off on August 7th. And since that day off, he's now 5 games. He's 8 for 16 with 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, 3 walks, and only 3 strikeouts. In the 29 games before that, from July 1 to August 6th, he was slashing 188, 260, 402 with 26 strikeouts. So obviously really nice to see him bouncing back. How much did that day off contribute to that rejuvenation? Hard to really say, but the numbers certainly line up. And if he can get streaky here for this kind of pivotal stretch here, that would be a big boost to this lineup. And again, the power you specifically called out, he had 2 home runs today. Certainly beneficial, but more importantly, in my eyes, is that Jonathan India had been struggling in the leadoff spot of late, as we've seen. And so if Spencer Steer can continue this kind of rate where he's getting on base significant amount of time right now, obviously over 500 on base percentage, but realistically, I mean, if he can continue this kind of hot stretch, he may actually fit into that leadoff role a little bit and give these Reds some on-base action at the top of the lineup while Jonathan India kind of readjusts and figure out what's going on with his swing.
Yeah, still on Ellie De La Cruz batting leadoff. I don't know if I'm bold enough to move him right now the way his season's gone, but long term, I still want Ellie De La Cruz. I don't want anyone ever getting another at bat more than Ellie De La Cruz.
I'm just not ready to make that change this year. I mean,
I'm with you. I totally understand. I think I lean more with don't mess with what's working, but long term, I do want him there. TJ Fried would also be an option. It's feel like it's working with him batting cleanup. It's different. I don't know about that. I mean, but again, a lot of these things I don't really think matter all that much, but nonetheless, good to see Spencer Steer. How about
I think
Andrew?
what we've seen out of David Bell this year is that he's going to put the hot bat in the leadoff spot if he can. I mean, Jonathan India for a long time was the hot bat, so it made sense for him to bat leadoff. Spencer Steer right now is the hot bat. Makes sense for him to bat leadoff. By the time the next go around comes where he needs another hot bat to put in the starting in the leadoff position, who knows who it could be? Though I think realistically, Ellie is probably the only guy on this roster that, I mean, obviously in Candelario and stuff, not everybody, but there are significant options that this team has in the leadoff spot. None of them are technically true leadoff guys in terms of like getting on base and working the count. But if you put your hottest batter there, they're going to get the most at bats from your squad. And ultimately that's really what you're looking for, is to get your hot bats, as many at bats as possible.
Yep. And India obviously needed a day off, so hopefully
Sure.
same effect. Hopefully has the same effect for him tomorrow. But yeah, I think there was nothing more than that. And interesting to see Spencer Steer play second base. I didn't know that was still in his arsenal. I'm glad that one play he didn't make didn't come back to bite the Reds today.
Right.
All right. Andrew Abbott. Really impressive start for him. A start that didn't look like it was going to go all that well early, in my opinion, but you look at the end of the day, 6 2/3, 1 run, only 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. Didn't give up a lot of hard hit contact. I think 6 hard hit balls. A St. Louis Cardinals team that came in 19-17 against left-handed pitching. St. Louis Cardinals team that he's struggled with throughout his career. Pretty impressive start for Andrew Abbott, out pitching Sonny Gray today.
Yeah, a really, really nice outing for Andrew Abbott, and especially coming off of his last performance where he went 5 innings, gave up 6 hits and 6 runs to the Miami Marlins. And that was matching a career high in runs. His 3 home runs in that outing also matched a career high. And tonight, 0 home runs, only gives up the 1 run. His last 5 starts coming in, we mentioned at the top, he was 0 for 3 with a 6.56 ERA. Here's what I found interesting, Nick, and you kind of touched on it in the opening, but in the second and the third, he had bases loaded jams in both scenarios. And then he gets out of those. In the bottom of the third, the Reds take the lead, and Andrew Abbott then goes on to erase 11 straight Cardinals. When the Reds lead and opponents are slashing 197, 299, 368 against Andrew Abbott, when the Reds are trailing, opponents are slashing 270, 340, 532 against Andrew Abbott. Not saying that it's directly tied, but Andrew Abbott being a contact pitcher and having confidence in being able to throw a strike and not have to worry about trying to nibble at corners and try to get guys out swinging or worry about giving up a home run ball, he can be more aggressive in the plate. And that ended up showing. Now, I don't know well enough to know if this is a season-long trend or if it was just tonight. The Cardinals were uber aggressive from the 4th inning on. No Reds pitcher threw more than 11 pitches in an inning. So Andrew Abbott was able to be aggressive early on in the count, get guys out, and he didn't have to worry with a 3-1 lead or what eventually became a 6-1 lead.
Yeah, it's an interesting observation, on Abbott. But I mean, yeah, look, he just continues to home along. Big stretch for Andrew Abbott because it felt like this season was maybe starting to get away from him a little bit. I don't think it was as bad as it got last year by any stretch of the imagination, but coming into today, he was struggling. And so for him to come and, put this start together, I think it gives you a lot of confidence here that all right, maybe he's able to push through a little bit deeper into the year this year, like he wasn't able to do last year. But, ultimately we'll have to, see how it plays out. But, yeah, really good start from him tonight.
Sorry, I really
Ellie
like that.
Ellie De La Cruz. What a swing. I mean, right after Gray, I mean, I think Gray probably wishes he could have got that pitch back. It wasn't a terrible pitch, but first pitch, 94-mile-per-hour fastball to Ellie De La Cruz right after you give him a Bob the Spencer steer. Probably not the most ideal sequence there for Gray, but Ellie punished it. Ellie made a couple really great plays defensively early in the game. I'm sure the talking point is, Ellie makes all the incredible plays, but he can't make the routine plays. I thought that play that he didn't make that ultimately cost Abbott from getting through 7 innings. I don't think that was a careless play, and I think Barry Larkin was all over it on the broadcast. I think it slipped out of his hands. I don't think it was him, just being careless trying to get the ball to second base. It does feel like Ellie has cleaned up a lot more of the routine defense, at least of late. But overall, I mean, just another great day for Ellie De La Cruz. The superstar that he is.
Yeah, I've touched on this before. One of the things about Ellie offensively, the hole in his zone seems to be that up and in quadrant. It seems that he hasn't yet figured out the inside corner, or maybe it's just he isn't able to read breaking pitches well enough to know, is this ball that's starting on the inside corner going to break in and hit me, or is it going to stay on the inside corner? That 94-mile-an-hour fastball that he took deep was an inside fastball that he has historically bailed on, quite frankly. And so for me personally, I love to see that he was able to read that ball, turn on that ball, inside corner, didn't matter. He was able to take it deep. And that was a pitch that I felt like he's personally struggled with a little bit. Now, defensively, to your point, one of the things that I think is important for Ellie to work on, and I think I've noticed a little bit from him, is his situational awareness. Now, I agree with you. That ball slipped out of his hands. It's not like he came up early and missed it, anything like that. It came out of his hands and slipped. But at the same time, you've got Pedro Pajes running from first base. You had plenty of time to get that grip back and then make a good throw. And I think sometimes he just speeds himself up a little bit quicker than he needs to be. The other thing that this is going to be so silly of me to even mention, but the one run that the Cardinals scored, Ellie was the cutoff man on that ball to Will Benson to left field. And that ball was very clearly sailing into foul territory. And it went right over his head, and Ellie ducked out of the way. I feel like if he had made that cut, now whether Tyler Stevenson didn't yell for him to make the cut or whatever it may be, I think they actually gun Contreras down at the plate if Ellie makes that cut. But again, at the end of the day, that's the catcher's call to be yelling out the situation, and whether it's, relay four, or cut and hold or whatever it may be, or just say nothing and let it come. I just felt like that was one play where he probably could have affected the outcome, but nonetheless, I'm not overly concerned about the drop in the 7th inning. A little frustrating again that he kind of rushed himself, but I don't think I can complain a whole lot about a defensive miscue when the Reds win 6-1, and that base runner doesn't really matter other than Andrew Abbott not getting his 7th inning completed.
And on a night where there was 2 plays that he made that probably
correct
one or 2 other shortstops in the sport make.
Isn't that the story of Ellie De La Cruz, though? I mean, again, he's the outs above average. You're looking at plays that he makes that everybody else doesn't make. And then unfortunately, there are some of those kind of routine plays. He leads the major leagues in errors for a reason. But like you said, I do feel like he's been cleaned up pretty significantly. It just, still some room to go there.
Yeah, I mean, today was his 24th error, so he's probably on pace for about 30. I mean, you still what is an average shortstop? Is at least 15 errors a full season? Is that I don't know. I'd be curious to look at what Gold Glove winners are. They probably still have 15 errors. So I think that's the thing. People go, he has 30 errors. Okay, well, he has maybe plus 10 errors over the average, right? And then when you factor in the 40, 50 plays that he makes that no one else makes, that's why he, by any real stat that actually has value, rates out very well. So, and he's also 22. Barry Larkin had a billion errors his first couple years in the big leagues. Barry Larkin had a 3-error game and turned out to be a pretty solid defender. And I think that just cleans up more over time. All right, let's tell you about the Game Time app because I'm sure you want to get out to the ballpark. See these Cincinnati Reds right now, right in the middle of a playoff race. 4 games back at the moment. We'll see what the Braves do tonight. Reds cannot get any closer than 4 games because the Mets are off, but still in the middle of a race. We'll see what happens. But the Game Time app is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. That makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, views from your seat, and lowest price guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. They have all-in pricing. You can toggle this feature, and it shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CINCY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code CINCY, CINCY, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime at all, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health, whether in an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between. It's a 100% confidential, secure, and anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay.
Just real quick, I want to... Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just want to, that point that we left off on, I think it's important for us to be transparent and honest when things come up. So let's do it. So National League shortstops this year, Ellie obviously leading the way with now 24 errors. O'Neal Cruz right behind him at 22. But then you've got a huge gap. Willie Adames is the next at 12. Dansby Swanson leads all of the NL with only 4 errors on the season. Orlando Arcia at 6. Tovar at 6. Francisco Lindor at 10. So, look, I think none of those guys are in their first full season playing in the major leagues. There's no real stat in terms of like how difficult those plays really were. O'Neal Cruz's fielding percentage is significantly low. Well, I say significantly is lower than Ellie's. Ellie's fielding percentage is at 951, while O'Neal Cruz is at 938. So, everybody else is 970 or above. Realistically, I think if we can get Ellie into that 970 range, probably a lot different conversation, but just based on qualifying shortstops so far this year, that's kind of where the bar is set. So, who wins the Gold Glove this year at shortstop, I don't really know, but they're probably going to end up with 10 or less errors on the season.
Yeah, I have to do a little more digging into that. I mean, it depends. I mean, like a guy like Dansby Swanson that never commits an error, but also doesn't make as many flashy plays. Although Dansby Swanson, I mean, in 2023 had 11 errors. So again, that's what I'm kind of saying. I think I said, what is the average, 15 to 20? I mean, Dansby Swanson's been a Gold Glove shortstop and committed 11 errors in a season. So, I mean, you're already going to have built in around 15 errors, maybe 20. Then it's the rest is I guess how consistent you are.
Yeah.
All right. I want to talk about Jake Fraley because I feel like he could have really gotten missed on a show like today. Talking about this game when obviously it was the Spencer Steer and Ellie De La Cruz show, if you're just looking through the box score. But Sonny Gray was really rolling through those first couple innings. And then in the bottom of the third, Fraley led off with the walk. Now, it was a 4-pitch walk. It wasn't really anything spectacular, but nonetheless, Reds weren't getting a whole lot of base runners, and he gets on base with the walk. Then he stole a base. It was a close steal, but it was kind of a gutsy stolen base attempt, got in scoring position. Marte and Benson both struck out, and then Steer hit a homer. So it really didn't actually matter, but the way that game was feeling at that point, it was a 1-0 Cardinals lead. You're just trying to get a run back, get something back on Gray. I thought that was really an impressive sequence from Fraley, who's kind of sneaky, got 16 stolen bases now on the season. Him and Steer's got 19. Both of those guys, it's like they're going to steal 20 bases this year, and you're going to kind of shake your head and go, did that really happen? I don't remember all those, but I thought that was a pretty big play in this game. If anything else, it just maybe changed kind of the rhythm that Gray was in.
Yeah, and he did it twice, both the third inning when the Reds did their damage, and again in the fifth. He also led off that inning with a base hit in that situation, and then also stole a base, kind of creating a little bit of havoc like the Reds love to do. I think in both situations, he, certainly put the Reds in a position, like you said, to try and get that run back to begin with. Now, obviously, home runs, you don't really need to worry about stolen bases and everything else, but it does kind of change the pitcher's mindset a little bit, and also could change the catcher's approach to calling the game when you have guys in scoring position. Now, obviously, Gray went on and struck out Marte and Benson in that third inning before Spencer Steer was able to hit that 2-run home run. But just in general, I feel like Jake Fraley as a whole is one of those guys that we talk about like pretty regularly about he just gets the job done. Like honestly, it was a little bit like Andrew Abbott was for the beginning of the season, where it's like nothing was overly impressive, but at the same time, Jake Fraley, whether you look at the last 7 games when he's batting 292, or the last 15 games where he's at 277, or the last 30 games where he's 272, like he's just been very consistent. Now, obviously, we've talked at length about the home run numbers and the power not necessarily being there at the level that you would like to see out of him. But you talk about the leadoff position in this lineup and talking about guys that are hitting well and getting on base and, making pitchers work. Jake Fraley is a guy that has enough speed on the bases to potentially affect a pitcher's mindset when he does get on base. And his on-base percentage and hits per average are right there where you would want them to be, and may present an option down the road for him to pick up that slack if needed, since the Reds don't have technically a true leadoff hitter. So I think he brings a lot to this team. He's obviously in a much better place right now physically after battling illness early in the year and then battling all the personal issues. So I love seeing, personally, Jake Fraley succeeding, I think is a story that all of us can get behind. But certainly seeing him affect the game in the way that he did in that third and fifth inning gives you a lot of hope, and his success over the last whatever stretch has been really, really refreshing for him. And I think ultimately the power will come, but if he can just keep getting on base, that's all we have to worry about.
Yeah, Jake Fraley's having like a Luis Arraez season almost at this point. Like he's up to a 94 WRC plus and has 3 home runs. That's the same amount that Arraez has. Arraez's average is 306. On base percentage is a little bit higher, 7 points higher. So Arraez is at 105. But Jake Fraley has almost been Luis Arraez. And you almost got a point in my head here. I almost think maybe you should try Jake Fraley at the leadoff spot. Kind of the profile that he's had this year. Number one, it would get him more at-bats against right-handed pitching. And, pitcher has to see him 3 times through the order. I feel like, if you have to swap him out with Stuart Fairchild, I think that's a pretty good swap for, kind of that spot in the lineup with how they hit each handedness. I don't know. I wouldn't be against that. I know they've been batting fairly a little bit, lower in the lineup. I think David Bell's reasoning for that is maybe just trying to balance out the lineup, especially trying to balance out the swing and miss at the bottom of the lineup, because Fraley's been, Fraley still certainly has some swing and miss, but he's below 20%, which is quite a bit better than what Benson and Marte have been able to do this year. So I think it's more about that, which kind of makes sense. But I don't know. Fraley, the leadoff spot would kind of be an interesting way to use him. But I don't know. My guess here, Craig, I think the Reds still think he's got a chance to get hot power-wise and hit 4 or 5 home runs in a 20-game stretch. And I think they're still thinking that's going to happen at some point. Will it? I don't know. But you see how it could happen for sure, especially, when you play in this ballpark.
Yeah, for sure. I think we saw some power out of him. He went through a little bit. Obviously, you said he's only got 3 home runs on the year. But 2 of them came at the end of July. And he went on a little bit of I'll call it a tear in terms of like extra base hits. And realistically, what we're looking for is for him to hit the ball hard and ultimately the launch angle will take care of itself. He can work on that. The biggest thing for me is he's just got to continue to see the ball well and make contact, and the rest of it will come. You mentioned Luis Ariz. It's funny. I don't know if you even saw in the chat last night or not, but we were having some conversation in the chat about the offseason potential targets for the Reds. And I mentioned Luis Ariz style player, not Luis Ariz. I know you don't love that, but one of the, as you lose your headset, one of the things that the Reds have struggled with is consistently getting on base and getting base hits. And so a Luis Ariz style player, or the way that we've seen this right now, Jake Fraley has kind of filled in that role, but having a consistent on base guy provides a lot of opportunity for your guys in the middle of the lineup to be creating runs. And right now, some of the struggle outside of Jonathan India's hot streak for a month and a half has been getting guys on base early on. And so I think realistically, does Luis Ariz make sense? Maybe not, but I do think that targeting one batter, one offensive, target where the focus is on base percentage and batting average more so than power, to then complement a right-handed power bat for the outfield. I'm not saying that's the only thing we need to add as Luis Ariz, but I don't know if Jake Fraley can continue to do this. This is like, he's a professional hitter and he's shown this throughout his career. This isn't a fluke. Like, it's just Jake Fraley. And now the power is obviously something that he has shown in the past, but he's also a guy that's under control for the next 2 years, Nick. And so what you do with him is you got a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the offseason looks like for Jake Fraley, because he's going to get a little bit more expensive in arbitration. I don't know. I also don't. He feels like he checks the same box as a lot of Reds players. I have no idea what his value is. I mean, I really don't. I have no idea what Fraley's value is. I have no idea what India's value is. I mean, the Reds just have so many players that, like, other teams would like, but just don't know what would they actually be willing to give up for them. I don't know.
Yeah,
kind of a weird spot.
Fraley's making 2.15 this year. I would imagine in arbitration he'd probably make in that same range, 2.25 to 2.5. I don't think that due to his lack of power that you'd see it go up a whole lot more than that. And he's not bad defensively, but it's not like he's like above average defensively. So I don't know, somewhere in that $2.5 million range. I don't know.
Fraley is a player that is set up for a nasty arbitration, because he's the kind of player that his traditional stats look pretty good, but they're not valued by most teams across baseball. So it's kind of player that you always have to kind of really, trash what he's done in order to try to get his arbitration number down. So I hope the Reds settle with him and doesn't go to arbitration. But I would bet a lot of money that it does go to arbitration, just because I think the two sides are going to be very far off. I saw, I don't know if I should say this. I saw at the All-Star break, I saw Jake Fraley, his agency tweeting out his All-Star merits. I was like, come on now. Like, he hasn't
All-Star
been that
Jake
bad.
Fraley.
But, I mean, like, it was like the 285 average, like, ranks like fifth among outfielders. Okay. I mean,
hey, listen, if Luis Ariz is an all-star, then surely Jake Fraley has a case.
That's true. Oh, all right. I started out trying to talk about how impressive what Jake Fraley did tonight, and somehow I ended up trashing the poor guy. I'm sorry, Jake. It was not anything personal at all. All right, Jacob Junis. How about that tonight? Good to see from him. He's kind of a guy that the Reds need, with Nick Martinez being a full-time starter now. A guy that can give you some length. Obviously, didn't start out very well for him after the trade, but this guy that pitched really well for Milwaukee. So I don't expect that every time he comes out, he's going to be as dominant as he was tonight. but I think he's a serviceable pitcher that can kind of fill that Martinez role, not as well as Martinez, but I don't think there's this huge drop off either.
No, I don't think there's a huge drop off. I think ultimately Junis, and we talked about this at the trade deadline, Junis was a player that you went out and got because you knew Nick Martinez was either going to be needed in that starting role or was going to be a trade target. Now, we didn't know at the time which one that was going to be, but obviously with Nick Martinez very clearly filling in the starting role and doing so fairly well, Jacob Junis becomes a key point to this bullpen because Nick Martinez was filling in a role where, especially in somewhat close games, he was coming in, getting 4, 5, 6 outs and kind of solidifying the game to get to the last 2 innings to make sure that you're getting to the end of your bullpen. Now, I mean, Jacob Junis on the year is rocking a 3.5 ERA. He's 4-0. You mentioned specifically, early on, it looked a little questionable. His first 2 outings, he gives up a combined 6 earned runs, but now he's gone 3 straight outings. He's only given up 2 hits in 4 1/3 innings, no runs during that time period. Struck out 3 tonight. That was a high that he's had since opening day. 3 is the second highest he's had on the year. So I don't know. I thought he looked really good today. And yeah, if you can have Jacob Junis throw like that, gives you a lot more confidence in allowing Nick Martinez to be your starter in the 5 slot and go into Jacob Junis in games where maybe an Andrew Abbott doesn't go 7 innings like you did tonight, or maybe Nick Martinez doesn't give you 7 innings like he did last night. I think what we're seeing out of the pitching staff is not necessarily what we should be expecting moving forward. So having that position out of the bullpen is going to give David Bell a lot of confidence. And again, we've talked about Alexis Diaz on this show multiple times. He's converted 15 straight saves. If you can get 6 out of your starters, you feel pretty good about getting to Alexis Diaz in the 9th, and you feel pretty good about what Alexis Diaz has done in the 9th so far this year.
All right. The topic everyone's waiting for. The basketball jerseys. How cool are these, Craig? Nick Martinez, all-time good dude for getting the team some basketball jerseys. If you listen on podcast form, go to social media, you'll find them all over. Just pretty cool. I love stuff like this. I think this kind of stuff has some value to it. The camaraderie and it's a long baseball season, and when player can do something like this for his teammates, I think it's cool, and they look really cool. I hope they rock these a lot, because this is a fun. Derek Dietrich would have been all over this. I saw our friend. I stole that from our friend, obscure former Reds on Twitter, tweeted out about Derek Dietrich. This is a Derek Dietrich special if there ever was one.
Absolutely. The question is, how long before this becomes a giveaway at a Reds game in the near future?
Oh, that's
the real question. Will they get something turned around this year to be able to do a giveaway at a game later on in the season? My bet is probably not, just given the lack of, just to be honest, I don't feel like the Reds front office is really that proactive in terms of stuff like this. Now, if the Miami Marlins did this, they'd probably have the basketball jerseys created and a promo done before the end of the month. But, they're doing a Barbie night coming up in a couple of weeks where they're giving away jerseys. They did a SpongeBob jersey giveaway earlier in the season. So I feel like the Miami Marlins will be all over this, but for whatever reason, the Cincinnati Reds, from a marketing perspective, doesn't feel like it. But I think that if you did it, you'd have a lot of fans flock into the stadium to get them, similar to you do when you give away bobbleheads. Now, the question, Nick, for you is, which of the 2 jerseys do you like better? I already know your answer, but I'll let you give it anyway.
Anything with pinstripes always wins.
I know.
I mean, it's pinstripes for life. The fact the Reds don't wear pinstripes is a disgrace. It's a disgrace to baseball. The Reds should be wearing pinstripes. What they did in the mid-'90s was it was perfection. And they've had some good uniforms since, but everything else lacks. Now, Craig, I do have to say, though, it's a lot easier to turn around giveaways when you only have to give out to the first 50 people because that's the only people that show up. Like when you have to have the first 10,000 people, the supply and demand takes a little longer to create 10,000 jerseys versus 50 for the first, that's the whole crowd there at Miami.
Yeah. I'm sure that's the exact reason why the Reds aren't giving these away, is because they're worried about how many people are going to be at the game. Because, Miami's 13,000 fans per game is a lot less than Cincinnati's 25,000 fans per game. And the 50 that the Marlins give away couldn't possibly increase that to 100 or 1,000 at a Reds game. Heaven forbid.
Shots fired, Miami.
Now, I know that you aren't going to like this take. That black jersey with the City Connect Cincy word mark across it would look slick.
Okay. All right.
But I'm a big fan of the City Connects personally. So I know we differ on that opinion a little bit, but
I like the City Connects.
I think they would look real slick.
All right. Let's talk about the wild card race. See if I can get this in here. How we looking? Does this look okay? Let's see. How's that look? There we go.
I've been told the Cubs lost. So
the Cubs lost. You hate to see it. So, yeah, I mean, as mentioned, the Reds, everyone's out on the West Coast today. The Pirates are just getting underway with the Padres. Diamondbacks just got underway with the Rockies. Braves just got underway with the Giants. And obviously, I think the Braves losing tonight would be the most helpful, but I'm not also 100% sure that it's not the other way, that the Giants aren't a more dangerous team. I did mention last night that I kind of think the Giants are kind of the sneaky, scary team there just because of how dangerous their pitching staff is right now. So really, the Reds are in a win-win spot when they win the game. So, like tonight, if you pick up another half game on the Braves, great. Pick up another half game on the Giants, great. That series finale against the Giants, it might be the one game that haunts the Reds the most this year, just because of the ramifications. Obviously, you would only be you would be half game behind the Giants, right? I don't my math right. That'd be 2 games. You'd only be a half game behind the Giants right now if they would have won one more game against them. So that's why, I mean, and the Reds have a lot of opportunities against these other teams. Still play the Braves, still play the Mets, obviously still play the Cardinals, still play the Cubs. Although I'm not worried at all about the Cubs. I think it's the same take I said last year. Like, I'm not worried about the Cubs because if the Reds don't finish ahead of the Cubs, they're not finishing ahead of whoever the third wild card spot team is, in my opinion. Any kind of thoughts on kind of where this wild card race is that the Reds have kind of snuck their way back into?
You control what you can control. At the end of the day, win ball games, win series, and the rest will play itself out. We've talked about this. I think you talked about it last night. The Reds still have opportunities against the Cardinals, against the Cubs, against the Mets, against the Braves. Like, they're going to have an opportunity to earn their way into that wild card spot. They've just got to earn it, and they've got to take care of their own business, and the rest will play itself out. But right now, the focus is on what can you control, and for the Reds, that means winning this series against the Cardinals, and then taking care of business against the Royals. That's a big series that's coming up after this one that we haven't talked about yet, but back-to-back series against Missouri teams, that's going to be big in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I mean, the Royals are playing well, but those games are at home, and then you got the Pirates, and then the Blue Jays and the Pirates, 2 teams that aren't playing very well right now, and then the A's. So yeah, I mean, look, they got some games here they can are certainly winnable. And then you get into September, they're going to have 3 games at the Mets. How about this stretch, Craig? September 6th through the 12th at the Mets, 1 game at the Braves, and then 3 games at the Cardinals, because they have that makeup game still against the Braves. Then they play the
MLB did the Reds no favors by scheduling that Braves game for that random 1 day off.
Yeah. Well, then they play at the Twins, and then they are come back home and against the Braves, and then against the Pirates. Like literally, almost the entire month of September is against teams that are right in this in this race right now. So I don't know. It'll be fascinating. I love it. I just love for the Reds, honestly, just to be within a couple games when you get into September because it's fun. I know like 2021 and 2023 didn't go the Reds' way, but when you're in a race in September and you're able to follow other teams and track it, for me, it's a lot of fun. Sure beats a lot of other years I've been a Reds fan when they're completely out of it by the All-Star break. So like I don't know. I enjoy that. I enjoy scoreboard watching. I love it. So I just hope the Reds can hang around, and if they pick up another game. I mean, the Reds are kind of in a spot, Craig, where I know everyone says like the Reds are in kind of this desperation spot. But really, I mean, if they can just pick up like one more game over the next couple weeks and get to September within 3 games, you're still going to have a chance in September.
Yeah, they don't have to make up all 4 games right now. They're going to have chances, but I think one of the interesting things that we'll be seeing is how David Bell manages the lineup and the bullpen to ensure that down that pivotal stretch in September that everybody is healthy and that everybody is refreshed. How's he going to give days off? How is he going to manage the bullpen to ensure that they stay as fresh as possible? Will somebody like Fernando Cruz get an IL stint to really refresh? I don't know. There's a lot of things at play that could potentially impact that pivotal stretch. And again, we don't know the latest on Matt McClain, but is there an opportunity a month from now that he's back on this lineup? We don't know. And so there's a lot of potential scenarios here that are at play, and David Bell is going to have his handful. And quite frankly, I think he's going to have an opportunity to either show his value as a manager over the next 30 to 45 days, or he's going to continue to feed the haters and give them more opportunities to bash him. So I'll be interested to watch that specific aspect over the next 30 days and see how he manages workload over that time period.
There was a couple updates on starting pitching. Graham Ashcraft today, he could be throwing in the next 10 days, but it will almost be like a 6-week build-up program for him. And then there was an update on Brandon Williamson. Brandon is throwing a side or live BP and then a rehab inning. I think we have him starting next week, said David Bell today. So the Williamson one is I think maybe the most important injury update that I've saw right now, just because that's the one thing the Reds really desperately need right now is their starting pitching health to stay, because there's not really a lot of depth there. Like the relievers, there's still some options down at AAA. There's guys like Zach Maxwell. There's guys like Brooks Kriske that have pitched very well. Obviously, Yasver Zulueta. So there's options there.
Plus, don't forget Brent Suter threw a bullpen today, and he's on his way back as well.
Yeah. Yes, I'm not really worried about the bullpen. Position player wise, I don't even necessarily think the Reds are in a bad shape there. Obviously, they can't lose Ellie De La Cruz or Tyler Stevenson or TJ Friedel. But there's some decent depth at AAA right now. It's not great depth by any means, but you have Joey Weimer, you have Reese Hines, you have Blake Dunn playing well right now. The Reds picked up the second baseman from the Rangers, Davis Wenzel, that's got some big league experience. So there's a little bit more depth there, but the starting pitching, that's where you have a starter go down. That's where the Reds are kind of in trouble. So Williamson getting back, I think, is really, really important there because of that. There was some more injury updates. I wish I had more time today to kind of follow all these. There was an update on CES today, too. I'm reading right now. We're still pushing him. Manager David Bell said, all of our guys, we're trying to get them back as quick as we can to see where they are. He still has a chance to impact our season. So I guess he's not completely ruled out. I almost had kind of just thought that. Matt McClain. And riveting content here as I'm reading through this. After a stress reaction, his ribcage forced the club to scratch a start. Matt is feeling better. He's not back throwing or hitting yet, but some good signs over the last couple days. So I don't know on him.
Look, the Reds in the next 40 or so days, they have 4 days off through the 22nd. They've got 4 days. They've got a stretch there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 11, 12 straight between September 4th and the 15th. Like, David Bell's going to have to figure out this starting rotation. And like you said, that's the most volatile piece of this all. If you lose a starter, your replacement value is significantly lower than if you have a position player go down or a bullpen arm go down. And so whether that means Jacob Junis steps in and does a long opener type role, whether that means you call up a guy like Leon Richardson or whatever to do something, I don't know. But if you have a starting pitcher get injured over the next 40 days, you don't have a lot of room to fudge with the rotation in order to avoid having to go with somebody at the AAA level or a bullpen. So we've had a lot of scenarios where guys have been hurt or they've had to miss a start, and we've been able to work around it in order to give them the days off that they need without having to miss significant time. That changes a little bit over the next month and a half in terms of having days off. So if it's going to happen, the starting pitching is going to be key. They're going to have to stay healthy, and they're going to have to continue to perform in the way that they're performing right now.
Yeah, I would say maybe the next month and like 4 days, because when you do get into September, the Reds have 3 off days within their last 4 series. So they can really, it was the same thing as they had last year. Now there could be rainouts that completely mess that up and you have to play some makeup games. But the Reds last year, I mean, had the opportunity and they really manipulated their starting rotation at the end. So
yeah, look, the Reds have a day off on Thursday this week, and then they've got 10 straight days with a game. And then they have a day off on Monday, the 26th. And then after that, you get into the end of August and early September, and you're looking at having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in 7 days. Like, that's a big stretch because they've got that doubleheader against Milwaukee on the 30th. And then you get a day off randomly in the middle of the Houston series. I'm not sure. I don't think I noticed that before, but you have a random day off on September 3rd, even though you're playing at home against the Astros on the 2nd and on the 4th and 5th. You have any insight into that day off on the 3rd? Do you remember?
I don't remember. Odd. I think there might've been something.
Yeah, but you get that day off on the 3rd, but then you literally have 11 straight days with a game from the 4th until the 15th. So I think realistically between now and the 15th is a very pivotal moment. You've got essentially 2 days off, 3 days off. No, 2 days off from August 16th until September 15th. So you've got a month stretch there from the 16th to the 15th with only 2 days off. So it's going to be a key stretch. And again, the starting pitching is going to be key, and they've got to stay healthy.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some super chats because I missed these earlier from our guy Michael Rolfe. He's got 2 of them in here. Shocker. Michael, is it just me, or could Nick and Craig add Trace with the spicy over-the-top color commentary? Call Reds games on radio or TV or both. It would be gold.
Can you imagine doing Trace with a live broadcast? I mean, his reactions on here alone are classic, but add them on live broadcast television in person. It would. I think
we're meant more for that, like, players only type style. Obviously, we're not players, but it's got to be more of that casual style as opposed to and the pitch strike.
Maybe we need to almost like Manning style, where the Mannings do the Monday Night Football broadcast, where it's like kind of casual. It's not really play-by-play, but still live reactions and conversation around the scenarios and stuff. I think that would be fun. Maybe we need to look at doing something like that for a members only broadcast in the future.
Sure, Craig. Yeah.
You don't have anything going on, right?
Yeah, no. When the Reds make the playoffs, we'll do full game streams. That's gonna happen. So
I guess
we'll
by
do
then I'm
that.
gonna have to figure out how to get my stream up to snuff. So
I mean, I'm not
behind.
I'm not gonna be behind on a playoff game, brother. I mean, you're gonna have to watch my reaction and enjoy it. All right, another one from Rolf. Shout out to Mark Fetters, the godfather of CBOX Sports. I never want to let him down, and this one belongs to the Reds. All right, we got a couple questions here. It's also people asking about Ahmed Rosario DFA'd. I don't know. I don't know if I see it. Like, I mean, right now the Reds are sitting on the bench, one of Santiago Espinal or Will Benson, or go down the list. So I don't know. I mean, who would he play over? He's a terrible defender. I mean, so he'd fit in great with this team, but I mean, he's like legitimately one of the worst defenders in baseball. I don't know. I don't know if I see it with him. I wouldn't be against it, but I don't know.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't see him on the major league roster. Does that mean that he can't be a better backup plan than Davis Wenzel? I don't know.
He's gonna get a big league job. I can't.
That's the thing. You're not gonna DFA Espinal or France or India or Marte or De La Cruz or Candelario to make room for him. So you're kind of stuck where even if you wanted to add him, you don't have a spot for him right now. And you don't have anybody that you can take off of the 40-man to make room for him. I just don't think he's a big enough upgrade to even make it worth it. And I don't see how he fits into the plans. Now, if somebody were to get hurt, maybe he's worth a call, but I think that's kind of a last case scenario where, knock on wood, that doesn't happen and you don't need him.
Yeah, I mean, he has good numbers this year, but I don't know. Looking at like a stat that I like to use is expected weighted on base average. He's like 288. The average for that's like 330. So I think the reason he got DFA'd is because I think teams think that he's due for some serious regression. Only walking at 2.8% of his plate appearances. So I don't know. I think Ty France is a better DH option than him. So like, I don't know. I don't really see it. I wouldn't be against it, but I don't think it really helps the Reds all that much.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers are DFAing him after only 5 games after acquiring him at the deadline from Tampa Bay. So I don't know. He was 3 for 11 or got on base 3 times in his 11 at bats in those 5 games. So it's not like he performed poorly, but if the Dodgers are DFAing him to reactivate Mookie Betts, I don't know the Dodgers roster well enough to know, but certainly interesting to DFA him. I don't know. Maybe they know something we don't.
Yeah. Another question we got asking about the rosters expanding. It only expands 1 player, or no, 2 players to 28, right? I'm second guessing myself. I think it's.
I thought it was just 27, but let me double check.
Was I right originally? No, they did 28 to 28. So it's you get 2 extra players. So
1 pitcher and 1 position player.
Yes, yeah, that's what it is. That's be 1 of each. So
yeah,
a lot of times, I mean, the Reds, I not gonna make people excited, but I think there's a good chance as a catcher, just because I think it gives you more flexibility on how you can use Tyler Stevenson. If you want to use Tyler Stevenson at DH, if you have 2 catchers, you can pinch hit for 1 catcher with the other. So that would be my guess what the Reds do there. And then, obviously another bullpen arm. Carrie asks, can trades still occur between now and the end of the season? The answer is no. The only thing that can happen is teams can put players on waivers and a team can pick them up. But they have to take on their whole salary, and you don't actually trade. So if the Reds decided, for example, tomorrow, we've seen enough of Jamer Candelario. We're going to put him on waivers. They can put him on waivers, and if a team wants to pick him up, they can pick him up and just take his full salary, but there's no other negotiations. Not even to where, like, at the trade deadline, sometimes you see teams will make a trade for a player where it's just cash considerations. So basically, like, at the trade deadline, you might say, we want to get rid of Jamer Candelario, but no team wants to take on his full salary. The Reds will pay a third of his remaining salary. You pay the rest. You can't even do that. You have to pick up the whole thing. So that's kind of the difference that makes it tougher. You saw last year there's a deadline, which is why that whole waiver deadline thing happened. There's not an actual deadline for doing it, but there's a deadline for when players have to be on your 40-man roster to be eligible for the playoffs, which is September 1st. So, I mean, we're really in like 3 weeks. So there'll probably be some teams that will start putting players on waivers. There's teams putting players on waivers all the time that we just never hear about because they just go all the way through. Like teams putting a guy on waivers that they don't think anyone's going to actually claim. And they just run all the way through just to, give other teams a chance. But there'll be some of that coming up here in the next couple weeks, and that'll make it interesting to see where the Reds stand. Last year, the Reds were aggressive in that. I think it sounded like they put in multiple claims. They ended up getting Bader and I can't even remember the guy's name. It feels so long ago. Renfroe. And obviously both of those guys completely flopped. But it was good pickups for the Reds because all they did was spend money on it. They didn't give anything up for it. So there'll be some of that'll happen again.
So that changed back in 2019, just for those that are wondering. It used to be a non-waiver trade deadline, and then players could be placed on a revocable trade waivers, and then teams could claim them, and then whichever team won the rights to that player, you had like X number of days to work out a trade with that team. And if you didn't, then the team had to take them back off of waivers and remove them. That changed in 2019. And like Kirby said, a player has to be within your organization by the end of August in order to be eligible for postseason. So they don't have to be on the 40-man roster. They just have to be within your organization. So there's still an opportunity. You could add a guy through waivers or whatever. You could add a guy to your 40-man down the road and he would still be eligible, but they have to be within your organization by September 1. Like Kirby said, anybody else, it would just be a waiver claim straight up. There's no trade associated with it. It's just a straight up waiver claim.
Yep. Yeah. And Justin Verlander was maybe the most famous back when, because it's crazy to believe, but he got traded at the waiver deadline back when you could actually make sort of like trades when they went through waivers. So, but he was kind of maybe the last one that comes to mind. But yeah, now it's all just, you have to take the whole shebang. So I don't know. I really think they should move this deadline back to like August 15th. But I don't think that's going to happen either, because I think teams that have really bad years that know they're out of it after the first month of the season, I think they're going to want to start shedding salary, and they're not going to want to wait that long. But just seems like, although, I mean, I don't know, really the National League playoff picture hasn't got any clearer. In fact, it's probably gotten more muddy since the trade deadline, if anything else. But nonetheless, I don't know. It kind of feels like it should be a little later in the year right now.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, if a player has to be in your organization by the end of August, then it would make sense theoretically for that trade deadline to be the end of August. Maybe the MLB really wants to have a period of time where waiver claims are a thing for teams that are shedding salary or whatever it may be. I don't know. At the end of the day, it's tomatoes, whether the trade deadline is August 31st or it's July 30th. Like, realistically, if you're out of the race, you can start considering making moves. And if you're in the race, you can start making moves. And realistically, with the amount of injuries that happen as the season progresses, it also gives teams an opportunity to address those injuries in a more efficient way and ensure that you're not having some random minor league call up have to be your playoff starter on a team just because somebody got injured. But I also understand, you can't have it go on all season long. So got to be a cutoff somewhere.
All right. Let's jump into Reds MILB, which is a riveting Dominican Summer League day for you. We had two teams in action today, both winners, so that's good to see. The DSL Reds beat the DSL Padres 10-5. Adolfo Sanchez, the top prospect down there, had a great day, 2 for 4, and he was struggling. He was 0 for 14 coming into the game in his last 5. Only hitting 214, does have a 356 on base percentage through his first 39 professional games. Yako Soriano 0 for 2 with 2 walks. Jervin Moriallo did not play. Now, the DSL Reds have 6 games left to play, and they're currently tied for the final playoff spot at 32-17. So that league's a lot more competitive than the NL wild card. The DSL Rojos, they beat the DSL Brewers 3-1. Nabil Mariano did not play. All right, Reds back in action.
One more quick MILB note, Nick. Come on.
Oh, okay.
Out of Daytona, shortstop Sammy Stafura was named the Florida State Leaguer Player of the Week, slashing 278, 480, 778 on the week. Shout out Sammy Stafura.
Guy I love Stafura.
Player of the week.
I think it's actually Stafura. Stafura. It's
Oh.
hard. It's hard when you start saying a guy's name every day and then you find out it's wrong, which happens to like half of these guys in the minor leagues because there's not a whole lot of great pronunciation guides on them. But I've heard a lot of German Moriello. But I believe it's Stafura.
Stafura. Okay.
It's hard though.
Either way, shout out to you, Sammy.
All right, tomorrow, Hunter Green. He's coming off a terrible start in Miami. Man, the guy gave up 3 runs in 6 innings. What a bum. Hopefully he can rebound from that. But Green's only faced the Cardinals once this year. Interesting start in St. Louis. He only gave up 1 run, 4 hits, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. But he only lasted 4 2/3 innings. That was actually the last start before he went on that crazy run of the best 6 starts we've ever seen in a Reds uniform. And then Eric Fetty just traded to the Cardinals. Start 1 did not go well for him after the trade deadline. Gave up 5 runs and 2 homers against the Cubs. Start 2 went a lot better. He only gave up 1 run in 5 innings. The Reds did not see him back when he was with the White Sox. But yeah, Fetty's a guy that's having a great year. A guy that I don't know, probably due for some regression. I don't know. He's a guy that's really kind of pitched over in the KBO. Last year was incredible. Kind of rebuild himself and has come back and had a lot of success, similar to kind of what Nick Martinez did. So. But this is a matchup. I mean, Greg, you got Hunter Green on the mound. This is a game, man. You got to go out and get and set yourself up for at least a chance to sweep or at worst get a series win.
Little behind the scenes here. You can really tell when Nick has to do game notes for series and when he doesn't. So it's really funny. Like a lot of times I'll get prepared and have all these notes on a series or starting pitchers for the next game. And Nick's got these extensive rundown and I'm left with literally nothing to talk about. He didn't have to do game notes for this series. So Eric Fetty relies on 4 pitches, throws all of them 15% or more of the time: cutter, sinker, sweeper, and changeup. You mentioned this is his 3rd start for the Cardinals after coming over from the White Sox. 8-5 on the year, 3.28 ERA. On the other side, Hunter Green, you mentioned it, over his last 6 starts, 3-0, 6 quality starts, 0.92 ERA, 39 innings pitched, only 4 earned runs, has walked 11, but struck out 45, only given up 1 home run during that time. Opponents are slashing 124, 226, 155. Hunter Green leading the National League, holding opponents to a 186 batting average on the year. Ranks amongst all NL pitchers in ERA at 4th, whip at 5th, and strikeouts at 6th. Shout out to Hunter Green. Let's see if he can make it 7 straight quality starts.
Yeah, Fetty hasn't faced the Reds since 2022. Does have a career 7.43 ERA at Great American Ballpark, but if I'm being honest, I don't really think you can put a whole lot of stock into that. This is a guy that completely remade himself going over the KBO, similar to like Nick Martinez. If you looked at any of Nick Martinez's career numbers, a lot of them are pretty skewed because he was a very, very bad pitcher when he was with the Texas Rangers his first time around. Reds, I mean, they have good numbers. Again, I don't know how much this means. Active Reds are 6 for 13 against him. Stevenson is 3 for 4, and India is 2 for 3. But we'll see. We'll see if that actually means anything. But again, good matchup for the Reds. Man, you find a way to win tomorrow. All right, we're really cooking. We're really cooking with some gas, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, Fetty early in his career was heavy ground ball, over 50% ground ball rate for his first 5 years. And since then, it's kind of actively declined as his career has progressed. 43% ground ball rate this year. Be interesting to see, get some balls up in the air, and hopefully it's a nice warm day at Great American Ballpark, and the Reds can see some balls leave the ball yard. The ball yard? Who says that?
Craig Sandler says that. That's who says that. All right, well, thanks everyone for watching. There was over 200 people watching. I don't know. Maybe the Reds are back. Our numbers seem to think they are. I don't know. And you know what? I'm going to say this on the way out. Feel however you want about where the Reds are and where their season is. But don't be the guy that has to tell everyone the Reds are dead. Don't be that guy. Like, if people want to have a little bit of hope in their life, let them have hope. It's okay. Let them enjoy themselves. I think everyone knows the Reds playoff odds are like 5%. But some people like hope. It's okay to have hope. It's actually really nice. You should try it sometimes. I'm not going to shove it on you, but don't shove your negativity on me. How about that, Craig?
Look at Nick getting aggressive in the chat on a Monday night, nonetheless. Shout out Kirby. Listen, y'all know the deal. Over 200 people watching, only 98 likes right now. Let's make sure we like, subscribe, comment on the feed. And as always, be sure to check us out in the morning. Nick will have an even more polished, good luck cleaning this you-know-what show up for tomorrow morning. Yeah. Okay. Make sure that he cuts out all my rambling. But yeah, good show, Nick. It's a lot easier to do a show after a win like tonight, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I did a show last week, Craig, where they got no hits. So, I mean, you know, when you've been through the valleys like that, I mean, you know, it's the only thing I'm really thankful is I didn't have to do. We were not doing Chatterbox Reds yet when the Reds lost while no hitting the Pirates. I think that would have maybe been the toughest one to do a post game show for.
What do you think is harder, doing a post game show where you get no hit, or you throw a no hitter in a loss, or you get no hit in a playoff appearance for the first time in like 20 years or whatever it was at the time back in 2011?
I think anything that happens in the
2010?
playoffs I think anything that happens in the playoffs is easier because you're in the playoffs. I mean, I think it's a little bit easier for me to kind of give a little bit of perspective. I know no one's going to listen to it, but I at least feel like I can put some perspective in it because it's actually a playoff game. Like, you're in the playoffs, as opposed to, you know, getting a no-hitter and losing a game when you're like, what, 10-29, right? I mean, you know, so yeah, I'll stick with that. But
I don't know if you saw the other night or not. We're getting way off the rails. Here we go. Independent league game that ended in a 0-0 tie because
the lights came
rules,
off.
No, the rules have a sudden death rule. So it was 0-0, and after the top of the 11th, the away team didn't score, and so the home team automatically picked up a 1-0 victory despite not actually scoring.
The more you know, Craig.
The more you know.
We need to get you to do some John Boy breakdowns of that here on our YouTube channel. That'd be great.
All right, Nick. We're off the road.
All right. Yeah, I got to get some other stuff done. All right. Well, appreciate everyone watching. Like the stream. We'll see you tomorrow. The boss is back. And we're going to be back here. And you know what we're going to do tomorrow? We're going to celebrate a Cincinnati Reds win. Have a great night, everyone.